حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله نور محمد صلى الله لا
والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد قال الله عز وجل أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. Everyone is requested to pray the Sharif. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has again enabled us all to come together to learn about His deen and also to learn on how to become more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we all know, the month of Ramadan is coming up, and there are many aspects of Ramadan that we know about and that we do not know about. So today's seminar, the two-part seminar in today's event, it's actually about knowing more about Ramadan, those things which we did not know before, and how to gain more nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to become more spiritual before Ramadan, during Ramadan, and also after Ramadan, throughout the rest of our lives. So this event today is a very important event. Now there are some rules and regulations in regards to fasting, in regards to Ramadan, that we already know. And sometimes some views and opinions may have been misrepresented by various people around the world. It's important that we know the rules of fasting, the rules of Ramadan, from its true sources, from the Quran, from the Sunnah, and also from the opinions of our pious predecessors who came before us as well. So today's seminar, especially in this first part, which is in regards to the fast, the rules in regards to fasting in Ramadan, this particular part will be in conjunction with the Quran and the Sunnah and the Ijma', which I am going to explain very soon as well, inshallah. Now, first of all, I want to discuss what is Ramadan, what is fasting, and why is it that we fast. And if you look at the papers which you've been given, is exactly what I will be discussing today. And I may discuss a bit more about other topics which are not on the papers that you've been given. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 182 to 183. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O believers, fasting is prescribed for you as it was for those before you, so that you may ward off evil. Fast a certain number of days. And then thereafter Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states لعلكم تتقون, that the purpose of fasting is in order for one to gain piety, to become more near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the last word in this particular verse is tattaqun, and tattaqun comes from the word taqwa. And the word taqwa, which we normally come to assume in terms of its meaning, is piety. But in reality, taqwa also means to protect. So the idea of fasting is to protect oneself from evil. So much so that one's heart is cleansed from vice and one is able to achieve nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the purpose of taqwa. That is the purpose of fasting as well. So by fasting, we hope to achieve taqwa. We hope to achieve a connection, a spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shaykh Hamza Yusuf, he says, fasting is not just about giving up food and drink, but it's also about tending to the better angels of our nature. The Prophet ﷺ said, if one is not willing to give up bad behavior during his fast, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no need for that individual to give up his food and drink. Muslims are encouraged during this time to become better people, to treat others with more deference. If enticed to argue, the person who is fasting is advised to respond and to say, I am fasting. So it's important to remember, fasting isn't just about abstaining from food and drink and sexual activity, but fasting is also about how to become a better human being, becoming more charitable, becoming more tolerant of others, and also learning about how to become better people within society as well. Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi says, there is an outward and inward fasting. The outward pertains to making sure that the basics are observed. In other words, abstaining from consuming anything, or cohabiting with one's spouse, etc. The inward aspect of fasting is to make sure that the fast is acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that there are many people who fast but gain nothing from it except hunger and thirst. Outwardly, their fast seems fine, but inwardly they are breaking their fast with such things such as backbiting, lustful glances, lies, and other violations of the inward fast. He then goes on to say, how many people are not fasting, but with Allah they are actually fasting? And how many people are not actually fasting, but how many people are fasting, but with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not fasting? In other words, he says, there are people who throughout the whole year, they guard their eyes, their ears, their tongues, their genitals, feet, hands and stomach from corruption. But in reality, they are fulfilling the true nature of fasting, which is to abstain from these vices. But yet they're not fasting. Yet there are people in Ramadan who fast physically, but with Allah, the true essence of fasting is not there. In other words, they are not vigilant over their actions whilst fasting. In other words, they're lying, they're backbiting, they're making trouble, they're oppressing another person, etc. So it's very important to remember that fasting, the whole purpose of fasting isn't just to abstain from food and drink, but it's to become a better person. It's to become a better person that we already are. Hence why in Ramadan there are many people who may not attend the masjid throughout the whole year. We may never see them throughout the whole year, but yet in Ramadan, due to the special mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon the ummah within the month of Ramadan, they come to the masjid. And when they come to the masjid, they want to learn about deen. They want to become better people. Hence why for many people, Ramadan is the springboard into becoming better people. So it's very important that anyone who comes for advice, or anyone that you haven't seen for a long time and they come for Ramadan and they ask you questions about deen and they want to become better people, don't shun them. Don't say, well, yeah, I didn't see you throughout the whole day, I don't want to know you anymore. No. It's about accepting them. You never know. Through you, they might change their life. And you will get a better reward for it on the day of resurrection, inshallah. Right. I know, obviously, on the papers, it seems like there's a lot. I'm not necessarily going to go through everything, otherwise everyone will be really bored. But what I want to do, I'm going to skim through, basically, some of the major aspects within the different parts within the sheets of paper. If you look at part A on the paper, it says rules of Ramadan. These are brief rules of Ramadan. What is Ramadan all about? It mentions Ramadan being one of the 5 pillars of Islam. That it is obligatory upon every Muslim, male and female, who is sane and mature. Now some of these things some of these rules, etc. will come again, but with more explanation as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised great reward for those who fast. Fasting has many physical, moral and social benefits. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made fasting so that we become pious, etc. And fasting basically means to stay away from eating, drinking and sexual activity from dawn till dusk. Now the Arabic word for dawn, or for the break of dawn, is subha sadiq. Subha sadiq, for those people who don't know about this, basically means when there is a streak of light in the morning which is horizontal, like you see in the sky. The sun hasn't risen, but it's just a streak of light within the sky. According to ulama, this is basically known as the first break of dawn, or the first light of dawn, the horizontal light. So that light is known as subh sadiq. In other words, it's telling you now that the time for Fajr has now begun. Ulama state there is another type of light which isn't horizontal, but it is vertical. You'll see in the sky. Ulama state that this is not subh sadiq. This is not the true light of dawn. This is indeed in Arabic what they call it subh kadhib. In other words, it is the false light of dawn. So when it says here subh sadiq, early dawn, it's referring to that streak of light which is horizontal in the sky. Now that is the beginning of Fajr. It's the beginning time of Fajr. So from that moment till sunset, Muslims are required to fast. Hence why, before the break of dawn, one is, especially during the month of Ramadan, one ought to have suhoor and eat something which we will discuss afterwards as well, inshallah. Right, now we come to the intention of fasting. So when you're fasting every day in Ramadan, it is important to remember, do we need to make an intention every day, or is one intention at the beginning of the month sufficient for the rest of the month? So if you look at the paper, it mentions intention of fasting is compulsory. If a person stays away from all those things that breaks one's fast without any intention of fasting at all, the fast will not be valid. So we must make an intention every day before we start our fasting duties, that we make an intention of fasting. It is not necessary to express your intention verbally. You don't say, I am fasting. You don't need to do that. All you have to do is think about it. Make an intention within the mind. But if one wants to express verbally, then that's totally up to that individual as well. And the intention should be made before Subh al-Sadiq. Remember when I've explained before, the first light of dawn, before that moment, one should basically make an intention. However, we do have calculations in terms of when the time Fajr begins and when sunset is, etc. So obviously a lot of the calendars that we have nowadays within the masajid are according to measures being taken by those who are either astronomers or scientists, or even within the Muslim community there are many people who profess that particular type of knowledge as well. So hence why sometimes we might not see it visibly with our eyes, but if we are going according to some of the calendars that we have within our masajid, etc., it's good to go by that as well, if we don't have the means of seeing it as well. Now I want to mention something about intention as well. Just bear with me for one moment. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and Imam Shafi'i, the three of the four Imams, they say that an intention for fasting should be made every day. Imam Malik is the only Imam who says one intention on the first night of Ramadan is sufficient for the whole month. So there are differences of opinion, but I thought I'd just let you know in regards to what the various Imams have said in regards to that. The next point is regarding dua at the breaking of fast. Now, there are various types of dua that one can make when you break a fast, either in the masjid or either in the house. So, of course, the most common dua that people normally recite is Allahumma laka sumtu, etc., etc. Allahumma laka sumtu wa ala rizqika aftartum wa alayka tawakkaltu. That, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for you I have fasted, and with the food that you have given me, I have broken my fast, and I rely on you as well. Now, that is one dua amongst many du'as one can make at the time of breaking fast. It isn't necessary that one makes this particular dua. Any dua can be made as well. It isn't necessary as well that one has to raise the hands whilst making dua at the time of iftar. It is optional. Whether one wants to do that or not, it is up to them. Okay? Similarly, if you look at it in this manner, after the salawat, after when we pray salam, the dua that the imam makes, for example, after the salah, isn't something which is necessary. Isn't something that you have to do, and by not doing it, salah is not accepted. It's optional. Whether or not you raise your hands or not, or whether or not you do it or not, it is optional. Similarly, during the breaking of fast, if one wants to make dua either by raising hands or not, or verbally or in any other manner, it is up to that individual. The next part is desirable acts during fasting. If you look at the paper, it says to partake of suhoor, the meal before Subh al-Sadiq. Now, I want to discuss about suhoor. By the way, for anyone, if I'm going a bit fast or quick or anything like that, it isn't because I just want to get it out of the way. It's just some of the parts here are quite simple. There are other parts such as moon sighting and the number of rak'at and tarawih and etc. and all that, which I'm not going to go too much into detail, but I just want to discuss a bit more about that afterwards. Suhoor, as some people say sahri, but suhoor basically refers to that particular time. It refers to the time that there is before the break of dawn. That's basically what suhoor is. Now it isn't sihri because sihr in Arabic basically means magic. So we're not going to talk about magic. But suhoor basically means that time before the break of dawn in which people partake in terms of having food, etc., so that they can gain strength throughout the whole day. Now suhoor, one thing I must mention as well, suhoor also is the time of tahajjud salah as well. And tahajjud salah happens any time between Isha salah and the break of dawn. So when one is actually eating suhoor, it comes in many books of hadith. The Prophet ﷺ also mentioned that the time of suhoor is also a time of dua as well. So whichever dua you make during the time of suhoor is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Why? It is the time for tahajjud. In many books of hadith we find also that the Prophet ﷺ says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the last third portion of the night descends to the first sky and he asks, is there anyone there who is making dua? Is there anyone there who is needy? Is there anyone there who is asking for forgiveness, etc., so that I may grant them their wish? So similarly, when you are partaking of suhoor and eating and making dua, the dua that you make is accepted readily by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the hadith, when it mentions that Allah descends to the first sky, it doesn't mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, in terms of his being, he doesn't descend to the first sky. In other words, his mercy is shown more in that last third portion of the night, more than any other part of the night. So, we now know about what the meaning of the word suhoor. The suhoor, the meal before subh sadiq. To delay the suhoor till a little before subh sadiq. In other words, don't do this whereby as soon as Tarawih Salah finishes, say this year Tarawih Salah finishes at 12:45, you start eating all the way till the break of dawn. That's not the point of fasting or the point of Ramadan. But eat a little just before the break of dawn. Don't delay it too much, but start about half an hour to 45 minutes, especially if you've got kids, etc. You know, there's a lot that you need to do. Especially try and do that before then. But don't prolong the eating cycle throughout the whole day. Eat a lot from Maghrib all the way till Fajr. It's not something which we ought to do. To break one's fast immediately after sunset, meaning soon as the adhan for Maghrib has been given, it's important to basically break one's fast as soon as possible. To break one's fast with dry or fresh dates if possible, and if dates are not available, then with water. Some people break their fast with milk as well, milk and dates, etc. These are all acts which are desirable but are not necessary. So if you do this, it's preferable. And also to make intention at night, just in case you might forget to make intention before the break of dawn. That is desirable as well. These acts which I have mentioned were desirable acts within Ramadan. The next part is about undesirable acts while fasting. It doesn't mean that it breaks the fast, but in doing so, it causes one's reward during fasting to be lessened. It's something that we ought to abstain from as well. It says here to chew gum, rubber, plastic items, or any such things. If someone's got a habit of chewing something, in Ramadan it's preferable for them not to chew too much. Right? Not to chew gum or rubber, plastic items, or anything like that. Also, to taste any article of food. In other words, to have any type of food or drink, or just to taste, well, I'm not eating it, but I am tasting it. You know, that's not good enough. It does mention here, I didn't want to put this in, but I'm not sure how this got here, but it says, for example, if a woman has a very ill-tempered husband, it is permissible for her to taste the food, provided it doesn't go down the throat. Now, apologies to the brothers, I'm not sure if anyone's like that, but the thing is in the house, whether it's the husband or the wife cooking, if anyone is cooking and they want to make sure that the right amount, or the right level or amount of salt is within the food, or the food is right for the children or anyone else, there's no harm in tasting, but it shouldn't obviously go down the throat. However, to do that as something which is habitual within Ramadan isn't something which we should do. It's undesirable, hence why it's best to be avoided. I mean, being ill-tempered can happen on either side, so it's not something which is, you know, I'm not trying to be specific to any type of gender. To collect one's saliva within the mouth and then try to swallow it to quench it thirst. Someone said to me the other day, if I'm normally swallowing my saliva, does that mean my fast is broken? I said, well, if you never swallow your saliva, which is natural, what's going to happen to you then? It's something which is natural, something which doesn't need to, you don't need to think too much about it. To delay a bath that has become obligatory knowingly until after Subh Sadiq. So you need what we call fard ghusl, a compulsory bath, okay? Due to cohabitation or anything like that. To delay that isn't something which is desirable, it's undesirable. But one should have a bath as soon as possible, or have a shower as soon as possible when a bath or a shower becomes compulsory. To use toothpaste, or in some cases like my mother uses tooth powder, in order to brush one's teeth, is undesirable. It's not something that one should do. Because why? When you're using paste, taste develops within the mouth. So the idea of fasting is to remove oneself from any type of taste within the mouth. It doesn't break fast, but it's undesirable. To complain of food all day and drink all day, looking at the watch all the time, or, what time is, is it okay? I had someone last year who basically said to me, I can't fast. I said, you should. He said, no, because I'm really hungry. I said, what do you do during your fasting time? He goes, I don't read the Quran, I don't do dhikr. I said, where do you go then? He goes, I walk along the West Road. I said, so you pass by those shops? He goes, yeah. I said, then don't do that. Come to the mosque, sit with me, and we can do tilawah, etc. together. It's important to remember that when you're fasting, use your time during fasting to make dhikr, to pray, etc. And if you can't do anything better, then go to sleep. Just don't make sure you don't miss your salah. The alternative to brushing one's teeth is using the miswak. For those who have not used the miswak before, it's important to use the miswak if possible. Using miswak is very good for one's oral health as well. To take water too much up the nostrils when cleaning the nose. Now, it doesn't break fast, but when you're washing your nose, you shouldn't take it too much, because in case, if it does, and if you take too much water up the nostrils, and it really, sometimes it can hit the mind or anything like that, then of course, according to some ulama, one's fast can be broken. Hence why it's very important to remember that if you do basically take water up the nose, it isn't too much, it's just a bit. To gargle more than necessary. To quarrel, argue, or use filthy or indecent words, and to backbite, tell a lie, swear, etc. In other words, these actions are undesirable, but they do not break your fast. It's very important to remember that. Now those things which I've just mentioned now before were very simple. This is the main part. In other words, what breaks your fast. Okay? Now, breaking one's fast is of two kinds. I remember this very carefully. Some make qada, I'll explain what this means, qada necessary, and others make kafara necessary. Now it says here, qada basically means to keep one fast in place of another fast which has been broken, whether intentionally or by any other reason. That's qada. So you know how you have qada salah, making up for salah. Similarly, qada fasts, making up for fast. And then you have kafara. But kafara basically means penalty. In other words, to keep one fast after another for 60 days continuously. Now that was supposed to be in another part anyway. But kafara basically means that not only do you fast, but you pay a penalty for the fast that you have broken intentionally. We will discuss what causes one not only to make up for fast, but also to pay a penalty, and also what causes one to make up for the fast without paying a penalty. So we will discuss, of course, both types. I'm going to skip a part. I'm going to go to the part where it says things that break one's fast but make only qada wajib. Okay? Listen to this very carefully. Number one, anything put by force into the mouth of another person who is fasting breaks that individual's fast. And then we have water which goes down the throat while gargling, conscious of one's fast, breaks the fast as well. To vomit a mouthful intentionally or to return vomit breaks the fast as well. What What ulama mean by that? And when I say ulama, I am referring to the four madhahib. In other words, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, and Imam Abu Hanifa, rahmatullahi alayhim ajma'in. What they say by this is this: when one is vomiting, but the vomit, when he's vomiting, it's forceful. In other words, it's uncontrollable. In those cases, if one has done it intentionally, or if one has vomited, okay, and basically he wasn't able to retain it, then in those cases, one's fast can be broken. But they will just have to make up for that particular fast. Remember one thing here, the key word in this particular part is intention. Everything is about being conscious and having the intention of breaking the fast. If you look again, it says swallowing intentionally a pebble, a piece of paper, or any item that is not used as food or medicine. I'm not sure who's going to swallow a pebble, but if someone intentionally swallows something, intentionally conscious of the fact that they're fasting, then according to a lot of ulama, this can break fast as well, and one would have to make up for the fast. Swallowing something edible equal or bigger than a grain of ground which was stuck between your teeth. In other words, you had suhoor, yeah? You had a nice roast chicken, for example. And what happened? You brushed your teeth, you're fasting, all of a sudden you thought, there's something between my teeth, right? You didn't know anything about it, it's come out from your teeth and you swallowed it. You knew it was something slightly large which was stuck between your teeth. Will fast break or not? Fast will break, especially if you were conscious as well. It's very important. Putting oil into the ear as well. Putting oil into the ear can also break fast as well. Okay, so for example, if you've got an earache or anything like that, and you have to put something within the ears, it can break. Why? Because the ear is connected to the nose and the mouth. So anything which goes in the ear can affect the throat, and it can affect also the nose as well. That is why ulama state that would break fast as well. Using or inhaling a snuff into the nostrils. Okay? Now, you know what snuff is? Anyone? No?
Tobacco.
Yeah, when you got a blocked nose or something and you're snuffing something to the nose. Or when you're using an inhaler. For those who have asthma, for example, if you use an inhaler whilst fasting, or if you're not able to fast due to asthma or anything like that, the Sharia states that one is not required to fast in those circumstances. And if one is not able to recover from asthma after the month of Ramadan, which we'll discuss afterwards, then all one has to do is pay what they call fidya, which is compensation, which we'll discuss afterwards as well, per fast. Blood. Swallowing blood. If there's blood on the gums or on the teeth, and you basically realize that the saliva is more pinkish and not whitish, which means there's blood in there, and you swallow that, then fast is broken, because it's equal to one swallowing blood. I'll give you an example. If you're going for salah, and you can taste that there's blood in your mouth, and you went to the wudu khana or the sink, and you spat in the sink, and you find that your spit is actually more reddish than white, it means that your wudu is broken, and you would need to basically perform wudu again. Similarly, during fasting, if you find exactly the same type of spittle or saliva, then in those cases, if you have drank or if you have allowed it to go down your throat, then your fast will break as well. To eat and drink forgetting that one is fasting, and all of a sudden one thinks, oh, I've just eaten and drunk, well, fine, I must eat and drink for the rest of the day. But then you eat again, or you drink again, fast is broken. If you eat or drink by mistake, and then afterwards you realize, Ya Allah, I've just ate and drank this Ramadan, your fast is not broken because it was an accident. But if you then say, well, I might have eaten and drink anyway, because I've just started, then your fast is broken. To eat and drink after Subh Sadiq, the first light of dawn, or to break fast before sunset because you had a faulty watch, for example, or the cloud, or you couldn't see the sun. You can't say, well, I'm going to wait for the sun, I don't care. No, you can't do that. You need to basically do it, break fast or keep fast according to the timetable, according to the timings which have been established locally as well. That isn't regarding the breaking of fast, by which all one has to do is make up for the fast, and that's it. No penalty is required. Now, what makes fast, in terms of if you break fast, what makes a penalty necessary as well as making up for the fast? There are three things. Number one, eating, drinking, or breaking the fast in any other manner, such as smoking, etc., without a valid reason, will make both necessary. In other words, not only do you have to make it for the fast, but you will have to pay a penalty as well. Number two, applying surma into the eye or rubbing oil on the head and then thinking that the fast is broken and then to eat or drink intentionally. In other words, someone's put makeup on her, for example, or someone's put surma into the eyes, or someone's put oil on their hair, or someone had a bath, for example, and immersed their head into the water, okay? And then all of a sudden they've come out of the bath, or they've put makeup on, or they can see that they look more beautiful than before, handsome than before, and they thought, well, my fast is broken, I might as well eat. Well, no, your fast is not broken, but if you do eat due to your ignorance or anything like that, then of course, not only do you have to make up for that fast, but also you will have to basically pay a penalty. Now you're probably thinking, some of the things are quite obvious and quite basic, but if you have my experience as an imam for 10 years, I'm putting all my experience into this paper, and I've come across all these things, right? So it's important that if you ever come across someone like this, then, you know, don't tell them off or anything like that. Just the way I've explained, just explain it that way. This is what you need to do. The kafara, let me say something in regards to kafara. I've done some research last night in regards to what the latest amount is in terms of kafara, in terms of paying a penalty per fast. Spare me for 1 moment. The present rate for kafara, for those fasts which were broken due to these circumstances which I mentioned before, is £5, £4.50 to £5 per fast. Per fast. That's the amount at the moment calculated by various organisations at the moment. The £5 that I mentioned here, the £4.50, it provides a person with either 2 meals or two persons with 1 meal. In other words, the point of kafara is this, and this is according to the Holy Quran and according to the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. If someone breaks their fast and kafara, paying a penalty, is necessary, they have to do either 4 things. Number one, they either have to feed 60 poor people and give them 2 meals, okay? 60 poor people, give them 2 meals per person, or they would have to basically keep 60 fasts continuously, which is for some people quite impossible, or instead of feeding anyone, give charity equal to 3.5 pounds of wheat, which is basically 1.6 kilograms of wheat, to 60 poor people, or not only give them in food, but also give them a cash in value as well. Just to simplify it for everyone who might be confused, if you've broken a fast and you have to make up for it, and according to the circumstances which we already mentioned, you have to pay a penalty. But the penalty is basically, if you can't fast for 60 days or anything like that, the penalty is basically between £4.50 and £5 per fast. Yes?
Is it okay to ask a question?
Yeah.
Some people say it's the same as Sadaqah al-Fitr.
Yes, exactly.
It's the same.
So Sadaqah al-Fitr, the rate of Sadaqah al-Fitr this year is also £4.50 to £5 as well. And that is based upon the measurements which I've already mentioned as well. Measurements based on the most, not the cheapest, or not the most expensive, but the most medium in terms of what the normal rate is locally. We're not talking about internationally yet, we're talking about local rates as well. It's very important.
Who compiles that rule?
Compiles.
Local. If no one goes out into the local market.
No, what it basically means is that you have an estimate, or you have a value in your mind to see what is the going rate, or what is the average cost of a packet of dates, for example, or what is the average cost of this. It's an average amount, it's not an exact amount, it's an average amount in terms of, well, some people have bought it for this, some people have bought it for that, they've paid £3.50 for example, or £4, just an average basically, yes. Because it can never be too exact, it's quite impossible. Okay, this part I want to do, and then basically we'll have a break for about 5-10 minutes, and then I want to finish off obviously other parts as well. So I'm just going to really skim through this part. The next part is in regarding those things which do not break fast. Those things which do not break fast. Okay? So, to eat or drink something unintentionally, it wasn't your fault, you just forgot. It doesn't break fast. A mosquito fly or any other objects flying down your throat unintentionally. So you might have been resting in the garden and all of a sudden a fly comes in your mouth. You think, Ya Allah, what's happened there? You know? You didn't mean to do it. You weren't catching mosquitoes or flies with your mouth. It just happened. Right? So obviously it doesn't break fast. Water entering the ears. Water, remember this. Water entering the ears, not intentionally, but it just happened to happen just like that. Okay? That does not break fast. This is different to the oil that I mentioned before, which was intentional due to if you had a problem with, medicinal issues in regards to the ears, etc. Swallowing one's saliva, having an injection. So if you take an injection or if you give blood, that does not break fast. Remember, it's very important to remember that. However, if you're giving blood in Ramadan and that's going to make you weak during your fasting, you shouldn't. It's very important because blood sometimes makes people weak, especially when you give blood. Having a bath to keep cool. Having a bath to keep cool. So someone thought, yeah, I'll have a bath. Spend time in Ramadan having a bath. No problem at all. It does not break fast. Okay? Rubbing oil onto the body or the hair. Nope. To vomit unintentionally, it just happened. You didn't force it. It doesn't break fast. Applying perfume. That doesn't break fast. However, they call it argabati, right? You know, the incense sticks, etc. If you've got that in the house, if it's somewhere where it's not directly someone's face, in other words, the smoke or anything like that is not directly hitting someone within their face, it's fine to put it somewhere discreet in the house, okay? But even then, ulama state the best thing to do is not to do that at all in Ramadan, just in case, because for many people it might affect people in different ways. So just to avoid that, the best thing to do is just not to have it at all within the houses. If you want to do it once fast is broken. Don't do it during the time of fasting. Also, if someone basically has a dream which causes one to have a compulsory bath or shower, that also does not break fast as well. Okay, so everything that I've just discussed now in the last 45 or 40 minutes was in relation to the briefs, do's and don'ts of Ramadan. What is desirable, what is undesirable. What breaks fast, what doesn't break fast. What causes one to make up for fast without a penalty, what causes one to make up for fast with a penalty. What is the amount in terms of paying for a penalty, etc. That's basically what we've covered now in the first part. In the second part, I'm going to talk about fidya. There's sometimes in our families we have people who are chronically ill. Diabetes, for example, being one example, or anything like that, or someone who is in hospital. You know they can't fast. So for those people when Ramadan comes, what is the ruling for them? So we will talk about fidya, compensation. We will also talk about i'tikaf for men and women. What is Islam stating regarding that? We will also talk about tarawih, and then last but not least, we will then talk about moon cycling, and the 6th fast of Shawwal. The idea for me is this: after the break, for the next half an hour or so, try and do as much as we can, and allow yourselves to ask questions, etc. in the last 20 or 15 minutes, inshallah. Okay? Barakallahu feekum. You can now have a break for 5 to 10 minutes. So, before I begin with the next part, anyone who has any questions or anything like that, you should have papers which will be passed around for you to write your questions. All you have to do is, if you've written the questions, you can then of course pass them to the desks, etc. And then I'll have a look at them, and then of course during the end of our session we will then go through the questions and answer them accordingly. Right, the next part, if you look at your papers, it states people exempted from fasting in the month of Ramadan. Who are those people who do not have to fast in the month of Ramadan? Number 1, sick people who are ill, when their health is likely to be affected by fasting, they should make up the loss. In other words, for not fasting, they should make it up whenever they gain health, a day for a day, when they recover after Ramadan. However, in certain circumstances, they're not able to make up for it at all. And in those cases, we will then obviously discuss it later on, but they will pay a compensation per fast in the month of Ramadan, which is approximately anywhere between £4.50 and £5. In other words, you know the amount that I mentioned before about how much it is for kafara. Similarly, it's the same for fidya as well, compensation. Kafara basically means penalty. Fidya basically means compensation. So we'll discuss that afterwards as well, inshallah. Number 2, a musafir. A musafir basically means someone who undertakes a journey. The word musafir comes from the word safar. Safar means to travel. Musafir, one who is traveling. So one who basically is traveling, travels for more than 54 miles, according to some scholars 48 miles, Allahu A'lam, there's a difference of opinion in regards to that. One who travels for more than 48 to 54 miles and has intention to stay for less than 14 days at any destination that he goes to, then in those cases, when one is traveling, then one basically is permitted not to fast. And this is very clear in the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah. However, if the travel is such that it's not going to make him tired, he's basically in a train, for example, or in a plane, or he's being chauffeured around, for example, then in those cases, one doesn't actually have, one should fast. But at the end of the day, when Allah says that one is exempted from fasting whilst traveling, then the general rule applies to everybody as well. Number 3, if it is feared that hunger or thirst will lead to one's death, it is permitted to break one's fast. If one is at the point of starvation where one could die, or one is thirsty to the point where they could die due to fast, then the best thing to do is to basically eat or drink, or not even fast at all. There are some people who don't have the means for iftar and suhoor, so what are they going to do? They can't not eat anything for the next 30 days or 29 days. They'll ultimately die of thirst or die of hunger. So in those cases, one isn't permitted to fast. These are the conditions that there are within the Sharia as well. Also, children. Children are not permitted to fast until they, remember these keywords, they gain strength through age. They gain strength through age. Some people say a child should fast. Some people say if there's a teenager, then they should fast. Some people say they shouldn't. In reality, it's dependent on what the ulama state in regards to what is the shari'i, meaning at what age is one considered an adult within the context of Sharia. Okay? So there's various opinions. Some ulama have mentioned 12, some have mentioned 15, some have even mentioned 10. They say that when the hukm and the law of salah is incumbent upon someone who is 10 years old, then similarly fasting is incumbent upon that person as well. Allahu Akbar. However, the opinion that I take, which is from Imam Abu Hanifa, is a child shouldn't fast not until they become an adult. And according to him, in the context of Islam, a person is an adult when they reach the age of 16 to 18, depending on the strength of that individual. That's what basically he says. However, that doesn't mean to say we don't train our children or train our people within our families on on how to fast. We should still give them some sort of training as well. Could be a 2-hour fast, or 3-hour fast, or half a day fast, etc. I'm sure a lot of you are parents will know what I'm talking about. And those who want, inshallah, you'll know very soon as well. Now, as I mentioned before, fidya. I did mention £4.50 to £5 is basically compensation per fast for anyone who has a chronic illness or is not able to fast during Ramadan as well. Now, for any days missed through necessity, fidya is payable. In other words, there was a necessity for that person not to fast, otherwise they would have died, for example. Yeah? Or the health would have basically, when the health would have, their illness would have increased. Or, for any days missed unnecessarily, kafara is payable. In other words, you broke it, you didn't really have to, So you not only do you have to make up for it, but you have to basically pay a penalty for it, not compensation. For example, elderly people. There are many elderly people who don't actually necessarily have to fast because they are at the age if they don't have the strength to fast, they shouldn't fast. There are some people I know of that who are elderly, they fast, but they're struggling, and you know their temperature rises, and they've got diabetes, and it's causing them to faint, etc. In those circumstances, one shouldn't fast at all. However, I'll be honest with you, there are many people from amongst our elder generation, when you tell them you don't have to fast, they get angry and they say, who are you to tell me not to fast? The best way of perhaps softening the discussion is by saying, look, just because you can't fast physically doesn't mean that you don't get the reward of fast. You can still get the reward of fast by paying a compensation. So it's how you really speak about it and explain the situation. That's basically in regards to fidya, in regards to compensation. If you look at your papers, we now come to part B, which is basically i'tikaf. I know there's about part E and F, we're not going to go through all of that, but part B. I'tikaf. I'tikaf basically means to enter the masjid with the intention of residing therein. That's basically what it means. That the masjid can either refer to the actual masjid within your locality, which is a masjid wherein Jummah prayers are conducted, or a masjid wherein Jummah prayers are not conducted, or a place in one's house where the female residents of the house use a particular place within their homes as a place for salah. Could mean anything in terms of i'tikaf. Mu'takif, the word mu'takif refers to someone who commits or who basically makes i'tikaf, whether in the house, whether in the masjid. Anyone who does the i'tikaf is known as a mu'takif. It's very important to remember these terminologies. Now, if it says type of i'tikaf, I'm not going to go through number 1, neither to number 3. I'm just going to stick to number 2. Sunnah mu'akkada. In other words, an emphasized sunnah. The word mu'akkada means emphasized. So when we say sunnah mu'akkada, it means a sunnah or an act which the Prophet ﷺ did, which was continuous, which was habitual, which is something that he emphasized as well. I'll give you an example. The 2 sunnah after Maghrib, or the 4 sunnah before Dhuhr, etc. Those sunnahs are known as sunnah mu'akkada. In other words, acts which the Prophet ﷺ performed, but he did it habitually. He did it continuously as well. So, sunnah mu'akkada, to reside the last 10 nights and days of Ramadan in the masjid is sunnah mu'akkada. In other words, it's an emphasized sunnah, but look at the next part. It says, ala al-kifaya, which basically means a person from the community fulfills the obligation of i'tikaf in the masjid on behalf of the entire community. So for example, there's about 26,500 Muslims in Newcastle. Imagine there was only one masjid. Although there's more than, there's about 14. But imagine there was only one masjid. Imagine in that masjid, if no one went in the last 10 days of Ramadan to do i'tikaf, and everybody was doing whatever they wanted, the whole community would be sinful. Sinful why? Of neglecting the continuous and habitual sunnah of the Prophet, which was to reside within the masjid in the last 10 days and nights of Ramadan. Okay? However, if someone from the 26,500 Muslims in Newcastle were, for example, one person or 2 people, if they were to go to the masjid and do i'tikaf there, that would suffice on behalf of the community. It would suffice on behalf of the community. So it's very important to remember that doing i'tikaf is a very blessed act in itself. Which of course, inshallah, in the next session in the afternoon will be discussed hopefully, inshallah, as well. So, sunnah mu'akkada ala al-kifaya, a sunnah which is habitual, continuous, but it's done on behalf of the community. There have been times where people have just looked at each other, you're doing it, no I'm not doing it, are you going to do it, I'm not going to do it, well, who's going to do it then? Well, if you're so concerned about who's going to reside in the masjid, and you've got time to do it yourself, it's very important. What are the conditions of i'tikaf? These conditions are in reference to females as well as males as well. And I'll mention about doing i'tikaf in the masjid according to the four madhahibs in regards to females and males as well. The conditions of i'tikaf: number one, to be a Muslim, of course. Number two, to be sane. In other words, not to be mad, to be someone basically who has the right, who has a sound mind. Number three, to be clean, to be free from impurity. And number four, to have intention. These are the conditions of i'tikaf. That you make an intention when you enter into i'tikaf. So I am making an intention for i'tikaf for the last 10 days or nights of Ramadan. You must be clean, meaning have wudu. If you need a bath, have a bath. You should be of sound mind, and of course, you need to be Muslim, of course. Things permitted during i'tikaf. What are you allowed to do during i'tikaf? Number one, of course, you can eat, you can sleep, you can drink, you can discuss matters about religion, meaning Islam or necessary talk. And also, it says here, it is makruh, undesirable to sit in the masjid for 10 days and nights of Ramadan and not talk to anybody at all. That's undesirable. That is not worship. Okay? Worship is to discuss matters which are necessary, etc. I remember 2 years ago, as the Imam in the masjid, some people were doing i'tikaf in the masjid. There was only 3 people. And they had like a curtain around them. And I walked after Fajr past them. You know what they were discussing? They were discussing whether or not Salah should be 3 or 5 every day. And one of them was saying, why do we need to pray every day for? It shouldn't be like this and that. And I thought, subhanallah, you're doing i'tikaf, you're being saved from the fire of Jahannam, and yet you're talking about whether or not the fundamentals of Islam should be abolished or changed. That is why many ulama, you know what they say, and this will be discussed afterwards as well. When you're doing i'tikaf, stick to the Quran, read the Quran, remember Allah, think about your life, think about what you need to do after Ramadan, etc. Now, one is allowed to leave the masjid in i'tikaf if you have to have a fard al-ghusl, an obligatory bath, or if you need to do wudu, or to answer the call of nature. Now, if all three are within the masjid, you don't have to leave the masjid. But there are sometimes when there aren't anything like this within the masjid in terms of facilities, then of course you can leave the masjid and then basically do whatever you need to do. You should not leave the masjid without a valid reason. So, for example, if it's iftar time and one wants to smoke, he can't leave the masjid to smoke. He can't do that. He can't do that. Well, I'm only explaining this from experience of what I've seen. You can't leave the masjid for smoke and then talk to people. Oh, you can't do that. You have to reside within the masjid. What should one do in i'tikaf? One should engage in ibadah, in worship, recite the Quran, pray nawafil, etc. Recite durushi, salat and salam, and recite istighfar, astaghfirullah, and seek forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Learn about Islam or teach others about Islam if you can. Now, i'tikaf for women. Predominantly, many say that i'tikaf within the masjid should be for men. But the reason why I've mentioned about i'tikaf for women, I want to go through basically what the four madhahib say in regards to i'tikaf for women, either in the masjid or in the house. According to the Hanafi school of thought, it is preferred, remember the word, preferred, okay, for women to do i'tikaf in the masjid of their homes, meaning a space which is designated for prayer within their homes, okay. It is undesirable for women to go to the masjid in order to perform i'tikaf. That is according to the Hanafi school of thought, and they have, of course, their evidences, etc. as well, which I'm not going to go into. According to Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahmatullahi alayhi majma'in, they state that i'tikaf should only be done in the masjid. I'tikaf in the homes would be invalid. And as a result of that, they state that if a woman wants to perform i'tikaf within the masjid, as long as the duties within the household are all intact, meaning children going to school or anything like that, etc. and all that, as long as everything's intact, according to these three ulama, these three imams, then if a woman wants to perform i'tikaf in the masjid, then she can, as long as there is an agreement within the household to do that. But according to Imam Abu Hanifa, i'tikaf preferably and desirably, which should be performed by women within the designated prayer spaces within their homes. The niyyah or the intention for i'tikaf, you don't have to say verbally, you can just think within the mind, I am intending i'tikaf for the sake of Allah, as long as I remain within the masjid. Okay, Taraweeh Salah, which is the next part. I'm not going to go into debate, I'm going to go into discussion. There's a difference between debate and discussion. Okay? Taraweeh Salah is Sunnah Mu'akkada for both men and women. In other words, what does Sunnah Mu'akkada mean?
Compulsory.
It is a habitual or a consistent act which was performed by the Prophet ﷺ within either the month of Ramadan or outside of the month of Ramadan. Taraweeh Salah was one of those acts which was performed in the month of Ramadan by the Prophet ﷺ. If a person performs Taraweeh at home whilst Taraweeh is performing at the masjid, that individual will not be sinful. However, it is preferable that when one is praying Taraweeh to do it within Jama'ah, within congregation, with people within the masjid. It's preferable to do that. If one can't do that and one decides to pray within one's home, there's no harm in doing so as well. If one basically has not performed the Isha Salah and they want to perform Taraweeh, they must perform the Isha Salah first, it's farz, and then join the Imam in Taraweeh Salah. Any raka'at they have missed, any units of prayer that they have missed, they should make up for it after once the Taraweeh Salah is finished. Also, the Witr Salah performed after Taraweeh Salah, it isn't necessary that you perform it with the Imam. You can actually perform it at home as well after Tahajjud prayer. However, because it's being performed in congregation, there is more virtue in performing with congregation within the month of Ramadan within the masjid. Now, I'm going to read something in regards to the four madhahib in terms of the raka'at of Taraweeh. So Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahmatullahi alayhim ajma'in, they say that during the Taraweeh prayer in the Ramadan is sunnah. They say it should be 20 raka'ahs with 10 salams and be done in congregation. There are reports from Imam Malik who states that Taraweeh in terms of numbers either could be 8, 20 or even in some cases 36 as well. In 2004 when I went to do Umrah in Ramadan, we went to Masjid Nabawi for Taraweeh Salam. And Shaykh Hudayfi, may Allah preserve him, who was the Imam there, at one point we thought probably paid 20 or something, and he performed 36 raka'at of Taraweeh Salah. And I thought, subhanallah, are we paying extra salah or not, or what's going on? And then one of my teachers said to me that according to Imam Malik, as I said, one of the courses 8, 20 or 36, he was of the opinion that Taraweeh Salah could be 36 as well. In other words, between every 4 units of prayer within the Taraweeh Salah, you know, when you're waiting for about a minute or so and you pray tasbihat or dhikr, anything like that, you can actually pray another 2 units of prayer during that time as well. Now, for us, I don't know what would happen to us when it came to that particular moment in Taraweeh Salah, but yes, that's one of the opinions as well. So, in regards to whether it's 8 or 20 or anything like that, if I'm being honest with you, 20 raka'at of Taraweeh Salah is something which was established by many of the Sahaba and many of the ulama. However, if one prays not 20 but up to 20, what I mean by that, if one prays 8, one prays 10, one prays 12 or anything like that, it isn't that that person is sinful because he might be following one of these opinions anyway, but it means to say that that individual has prayed as much as they could pray and they'll be rewarded for it as well. But as long as we can agree that the numbers that I've mentioned were numbers which were established by the scholars before ourselves or the companions before ourselves, whether it's 20, whether it's even 36, whether it's 8, then there shouldn't be any of this, what we call internal strife just because it's a month of Ramadan. So we have internal strife because of moon sighting issues or because, you know, oh, you never prayed 8. Like, hold on. This is a sunnah prayer. It is not a farz prayer. So if one decides to pray 8 or even 20 or even 36, I mean, we never make a disagreement about 36. Do we? No. But we have all disagreements about if the number is less. So we shouldn't cause ourselves to become the cause of fitna and strife within the community. Alhamdulillah, mashallah, someone prayed 8. Alhamdulillah, he's a Muslim at the end of the day. He's prayed whatever he believed he ought to pray. But it's finished. Scholarly debates, discussions and all that, we don't have time for that. It's a time of unity. So if someone wants to pray 8, someone wants to pray 12, someone wants to pray 36, 20, alhamdulillah. If you know anyone who's going to pray 36, let me know. I can join the Imam, inshallah. I'm more than happy to do that. I have no disagreements in regards to that. We will never talk about that, do we? We don't talk about that. So that's in regards to Taraweeh Salah. It's just a brief discussion in regards to Taraweeh Salah. I remember someone said to me, Imam, you know one of the masjids, they pray 8 rakat. How long does it take? I said, I don't know, go there. But I don't know, is it like 20 rakat? I said, subhanallah. I said, the amount that they pray is equivalent to the length that it takes for us to pray 20 rakat salah anyway. So what are you going to choose? He goes, well, there's no use me going. I said, you are underestimating the virtue of Taraweeh Salah. Doesn't matter which masjid you pray at. At the end of the day, you are listening to the Quran. At the end of the day, you are being within congregation, and you shouldn't have to decide this masjid is bad or that masjid is good. We're not in a position to mention that. We should be concerned about whether or not our spiritual connection with Allah is strong or not. That's very important. Okay, the next part, which is not on your papers, because to be honest, all the next parts is about the virtues of fasting, etc. So I'm not going to go into that. That's for you yourselves to read. But the next part I want to talk about was 2 things quickly. Number 1 was about moon sighting, and number 2 was about the 6 days or the 6 fasts of Shawwal, which is the month after the month of Ramadan, as to what the virtue is in regards to that, etc. So the 6 fasts of Shawwal. So Ramadan finished now. You've done Eid Salah. Okay. Now after Eid, we have the 6 fasts of Shawwal. What do the ulama state in regards to that? Now, the virtue of the 6 fasts of Shawwal is that anyone who fasts at any time within the month of Shawwal after Ramadan, on any day, to make up for the 6 fasts, then those who fast in the month of Shawwal will receive the reward as though they have fasted for the remaining parts of the year.
So if you do those 6 days, doesn't have to be 6 days in a row?
No, not at all. No. It could be any 6 days within that month. That's right. Okay. Also, in regards to this, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, they say it is mustahab. In other words, it's desirable. If someone wants to fast, perfect. If someone doesn't want to, they won't be sinful at all. Imam Malik actually said, that I fear that anyone who fasts during these particular days might make it incumbent and join it with the fast of Ramadan. So he said, if anyone fasts within the 6 fasts of Shawwal, then they should do so, not thinking that it's part of Ramadan, but it's something which is voluntary as well. Doing it, it's good. If you don't do it, then you won't be sinful at all. Okay, moon sighting. Now, there are 2 things that Muslims can't agree on: halal and hilal. Okay, halal food and moon sighting. It's a big topic. I'm not going to indulge too much into it, but I'm just going to read briefly about what ulama have stated in regards to this, according to the Quran and Sunnah. And this is in the book of in the various books of Hadith as well. If the 29th or the 30th day or night of Sha'ban appears, okay, or the 29th, for example, and you haven't sighted the moon as of yet, you can't see the moon in the sky, it's cloudy. What did the Prophet ﷺ say? He said, complete 30 days of Sha'ban, meaning complete a night, and the following night would be the Taraweeh, meaning the following day would be will be the day of Ramadan. So for example, 29 nights or 29 days have passed in the month of Sha'ban before obviously the month of Ramadan. You're looking at the sky, you can't see anything, it's cloudy, so you haven't seen the moon. So what do? The Prophet ﷺ said, count that day as an extra day in the month of Sha'ban to make it 30. Okay? So the following night or the following day will then be counted as the day of Ramadan. In other words, what I'm trying to say is this. Moon sighting happens at night. In Islam, we go by the lunar calendar. In other words, the night precedes the day. Okay? So on the 29th night of Sha'ban, if you don't see the moon, then you know the next day, the next evening, that would be counted as the 30th night of Sha'ban, and then you would fast basically the next day. In other words, the night of Ramadan then would start the next day afterwards, basically. In other words, when we say Ramadan, when does Ramadan start? Ramadan starts in the day, but in essence, you know, the Taraweeh Salah, or the prayers for Ramadan, actually starts not on the day, it starts on the night, preceding, or the night before the day of Ramadan. It's very important to remember that. Okay? So, sighting of the moon should be done with the naked eye, meaning with one's own eye. That is according to the books of Hadith, meaning according to what the Prophet ﷺ said. Now, in America, in South Africa, and other parts of the Muslim world, they have a group of people who basically go out at night to see whether or not they can see the moon visibly or not. In some areas of the world, it works. In some areas of the world, it's very obscure. They can't see anything at all. In those cases, certain scholars have said, if someone uses, you know, the moon observatories, etc., if someone uses astronomical measures in order to measure to see whether or not the new moon has come or not, in order to determine whether Ramadan has started or not, there's no harm in doing that at all. If someone wants to use their eyes to see whether or not they've seen the moon or not, to establish whether Ramadan has started or not, there's no harm in that at all. If I'm being honest with everyone here, you know, all the calendars that you see within the masjids, they're not according to the naked eye, are they? In terms of, oh, we haven't, no. Everything is preordained. Everything is pre-planned according to the astronomical measures that have been put in place and the observatories in order to determine when Ramadan starts or not. And what's quite funny about this, or quite strange, is we never disagree about any other month in the year in regards to moon sighting to see whether or not the month of Dhul Hijjah has started or not. When Ramadan comes, subhanallah, it's as though that we've become the crescent ourselves. We haven't become a full moon. You know, it's very strange. So eyewitnesses are very important, but you know the other method, using the observatories, etc., that is permissible as well. One more thing I want to mention as well, which is perhaps a massive topic which has been rarely discussed about, and many people have had many debates in regards to this. In Islam, when Maghrib Salah finishes, you know the redness within the sky. When the redness within the sky disappears, and then after what follows is a slight whiteness within the sky, especially within the summer period. When you have that whiteness within the sky, Isha Salah time has not yet begun. You need to wait for that whiteness within the sky to disappear, or it should disappear in terms of the colour mostly within the sky in order for Isha Salah to begin. In England or in the UK, sometimes that's quite impossible within the month of Ramadan, as opposed to here in Spain, for example, or in Morocco, or in South Africa, and other parts of the world. Why? Because the longitude and the latitude of the UK being further more north in terms of where we are within the world makes it quite impossible sometimes to determine, especially within the summer period, in terms of when does Isha time begin or when does it end. In fact, 2 years ago there was a time when the whiteness within the sky after Maghrib Salah lasted till the time of Fajr Salah. So what do you do then? What did the ulama state then? So the ulama state this: if Ramadan is in the summer period and the redness of the sky goes, which goes automatically anyway, about half an hour or so after Maghrib Salah, and the whiteness of the sky remains and is there throughout the whole night, so it's impossible to determine what time is Isha Salah beginning time. How do we determine when the Fajr beginning time is as well? In those cases, the ulama have stated approximately 1 hour from the time when Maghrib Salah begins, okay, meaning sunset, Isha Salah time, beginning time of Isha Salah time will take place automatically. Because if you start to wait throughout the whole night, when are you going to do Isha? When are you going to do Fajr? How are you going to fast, etc. So they say 1 hour, exactly 1 hour after sunset, that is when Isha Salah, in terms of its beginning time, takes place immediately. They then state that Fajr time, in terms of Fajr beginning time, would then basically begin approximately up to 2 to 2.5 hours after when Isha or Tarawih Salam time begins. I'll give you an example. In this year, Iftar is what? Approximately what? 9:40? 9:30? 9:35? Right. 9:35. That's sunset. 9:35 till 10:35 will be the time which we normally go home and eat, etc. and all that. According to scholars, when I say scholars, by the way, I mean by the majority of scholars of the former madhahib and modern day scholars as well. They say, especially within the UK, they say that when you look at say Maghrib Salah time in terms of sunset being 9:35 by example, 10:35 would be then the time for Isha beginning time. So then Tarawih then would take place at 11 o'clock Jama'ah time, as an example. Because in our masjid that's the time that we have. 11 or 11:15 Tarawih Salah will take place. Tarawih Salah takes place all the way till when? At approximately till 1 a.m. Some masjids 1 a.m. Am I right? 12:45, 1 a.m. From 1 a.m. to Fajr beginning time. Fajr beginning time this year is approximately what? 2:30. Is it 2:30? 2:45? Depending which calendar you use as well. Okay, 2:45. In some cases 3 o'clock. Let's say 3 o'clock. Okay. So if basically Fajr beginning time is at 3 o'clock, and then you finish your Tarawih at about 1 o'clock. You know that time between 1 and 3, or the time between 1 and half 2, that is the time that you would have in the summer months, in Ramadan, in the UK to eat, or to do suhoor. And approximately 3 o'clock, or after 3 o'clock, or after 2:45 a.m., that is when Fajr beginning time will begin. In other words, you have to divide the night into 3 parts. You have the Isha part, you have the food part in terms of your own personal time, and then you have the Fajr part. And it's very difficult to determine as to how to do that, not unless you have people who are professed within astronomy and within basically how to calculate the times within the night. I'm not going to go too much into nautical twilight and all these other things. I'm not going to go too much into all of those things, but what I want to emphasize is this: whatever calendar you follow, whatever masjid you follow, there will be variations in terms of Fajr beginning time, or variations in terms of Isha beginning time. Don't think that one calendar is wrong from the other. Everyone has their own measurements. Everyone has their own calculations. All are right. But don't think, well, I missed it today, so let me find out whether or not it's earlier this time or not, or whether or not I can have a bit more time in doing suhoor because I'm going to follow that calendar. No. If you follow one calendar of the masjid, try and follow it throughout the whole Ramadan. Don't chop and change, well, this is better for me, I've got more time to eat, or this is not better for me because I've got less time. No. Try and follow the masjid that you follow or that you attend during Ramadan as well. Okay, that ends my seminar in regards to a brief description of Ramadan. To be honest with you, this 1.5 hours isn't enough just to understand fully about all the ins and outs of Ramadan. It was just a brief description. The papers that you have with you is for you to have for the rest of your life. It is an overview of basically Ramadan, the ins and outs of Ramadan. It has in there the virtues of Ramadan, etc. as well, which I haven't gone through as well. So that's for you to read by yourself.